And when you talk about deception, there it is. And tonight, it seems to me that they come for me particularly. So if it's me you come for, let me tell you this. My service is to people and for the people.
This is the moment for Amazing Grace, where I say to my friends, I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. So no, it's not deception. Experience teaches wisdom. And one day I pray that wisdom will visit upon my friends and they will join us on this side as we continue the sensible management of the business of the people of Jamaica.
Tears, not because she lost a leg, but because she didn't lose her life. Today, sitting in a wheelchair, she reflects on the people who ran to her rescue when her life was on the line.
The man who came up there, big him up. All of them. Big them up. Pressure to do what the time foot. Respect to him. I'm a want to meet him. Him are the person I want to meet. Because he made me live here today. And him spare my life. Him and God.
On nomination day last Thursday, Dalverine Bruce was part of a political motorcade that ended in chaos in St. Thomas. 1 minute, festivities. The other, she was being rushed to hospital. But she says she was not being reckless. This in response to reports
that my foot was hanging off of the truck where nothing goes like that.
So what happened?
With some whisk was on the side of the wall there. And when the truck rubbed beside it there, it come down with it, this stone and everything come down. Like landslide. And that come down and the stone chop my foot. The stone chop my foot, pan the truck. But when me realize my foot, if me move this foot, I don't know so this one gone, because I never feel it.
But when she realized, panic.
I say, I lose my foot. And I spin. I saw me see the blood a spear. So I no stop say, me all man, I shouldn't depend whatever motorcade. All of me depend motorcade, don't leave that alone. Me I live my life. And I thank God spare my life.
Composed, Miss Bruce says she's not worried about getting a prosthetic leg. She's confident that one will come at the right time.
It in process. I know it's a wholeness and it's a James will do something for me. By right. I now worry myself. I will get that in time. I have life. Michelle Charles, respect. Mr. McLeod, respect. And Mr. Dwyer, respect.
Ash Wednesday begins the 40-day period of Lent in the Christian faith, and traditionally, it's usually a time when many Jamaicans give up eating meat and instead turn to a largely fish diet. But for vendors at the St. Catherine-based Causeway Fishing Village, that's not been the case this Ash Wednesday.
It's not looking bad, We are so happy for that and appreciate that.
We have got some nice fish here. I don't see nobody from Marley to come and buy the fish.
Trickling sales, they say, partly because of an increase in fishing expenses like the cost of petrol, which means fisher folk sometimes raise the price of their catch.
It's a little bit more expensive than years gone by, but we just have to work with it.
To be honest, I stick to my long-time price because I know things is very rough. And it's not every household can buy a pound of fish now. So basically, I'm not pressuring no one.
I find some of them, when I buy like them 10 pound of fish, would I cut down like all 5. Some of them still keep them amount same way.
People is not traditional like one time. You just have to do what you can do. So if you can't buy a pound of fish, you'll have to try something else.
However, for migrants like Denise Clark Michael,
one time they are foreign and we eat fish, I don't fish that. One time me buy some fish for Auntie Marva, all the bone, me chow up. You know what I'm saying? So right now I buy my fish and I sit down here and I wait for it to get scale because I go fry it, escovitch it and carry it back a foreign. So we have to do it. And I make sure I buy enough so I can, eat as much as I want for a few more months, and then I back on the plane again, come back down.
The skeletal remains of a body suspected to be that of Miss Stephanie Williams, O.C. Maddock, 29 years old, was found in a district known as Wallin in the parish of St. Catherine in a cane field. Miss Williams went missing on or about Thursday, the 24th of August 2023, and has not been seen since. A missing person report was made to the Constant Spring Police by the mother of Miss Williams. As a result of the report, the police commenced investigation into a missing person and possible murder. Several lines of inquiries were made and several persons interviewed and statement recorded. It is also to be noted that several case conferences were held and significant support was given by the Criminal Investigation CIB headquarters in Kingston. The body will be processed and compared with DNA sample to determine the true identity. The investigation continues in the matter. I am appealing to anyone who may have information that can provide assistance to the police to call us at 119-311 and the nearest police station.
Ziggy Marley, I don't know where you and Bob have. I don't know where you, your father, and your brother them have. What kind of movie that, my brother? The movie take 30 minutes for do this worse than my Shensia interview. Ziggy, you will answer to these charges. I promise you. You know, it's when the Privy court done, Ziggy. I promise you, the Jamaican government is gonna take it to court for this fuckery you just put out. Ziggy, how do you? Huh? Ziggy? Oh my God, already, Ziggy. How about that split for this, Ziggy? I'm in a smoke. See that? Me at the theaters right now, Ziggy. Ziggy. Yo, I'm gonna split for this.
In light of the fact that our constitution, it places even a duty on the judge to, as the custos morum of the constitution, to protect the rights of the appellants, that it was incumbent on him to ensure that he makes the inquiry so he protects the fair trial right.
The judge had them retiring on Thursday at about 17 minutes to 4 after 56...
Wednesday.
Yeah, it was a Thursday.
The actual trial was a Thursday.
Yes. So you're talking about the appeal.
You're correct, Mr. Summers.
Go ahead.
So at the trial, the judge asked the jury to retire at about 17 minutes to 4 after 56 days of hearing, the longest jury trial I know of. That means, 4 o'clock is when we normally get through. So what the Privy Council is saying, why didn't he just continue summing up, ask them to come the next day, sum up for 2 more minutes on the Friday, and give them an entire day? That is now seen as putting pressure, tremendous pressure on the jury. So that's a jury management complaint, and you don't want that verdict which comes out of, I need to go home, it's now 5 o'clock, I have to pick up my kids. That's kind of pressure that the authorities and cases show. No. Secondly, the jury management, and the worst of them, and the strongest ground, is for him to have caused the juror who has been alleged to have been attempting to bribe the jury, who has since been convicted. And that conviction was late last year, and it's now before the Privy Council. They are aware that this person was convicted. So how could you keep a bad apple in the bunch without the possibility of infecting the others? Or what about a compromise verdict that they said, listen, because there's an allegation that we are bribed, I'm going to make sure I give a verdict to demonstrate that I wasn't bribed rather than a true verdict. So those are huge issues.
Which is the overcompensation issue that the defense spoke about.
It's got the overcompensation point. And Pierre Rogers, who was the trial lawyer, did warn the judge of the possibility of this overcompensation. Huge problems for this conviction arising out of the convicted juror. The other point is the breach of the Telecommunications Act, where they went into the phone of Mr. Kartel and did not get the necessary permission that the law says you must get that permission and it must be handled in a certain way. They didn't go for that. They just went in and took it out. It breach of the Constitution to the right to privacy. So there are huge constitutional points in the case. One is the fair trial point, which has to do with the jury management. Secondly, the right to privacy.
And Mr. Samuels, in relation to what the other side is saying, because in relation to the tainting of the jury, what is their argument?
The argument is this: the judge was in a dilemma. The person who would be most at disadvantage would be the prosecution, because the briber was trying to get a not guilty verdict. So they're saying, the prosecution say continue the trial, and they were the ones most to suffer. But unfortunately, the rebuttal for that is so obvious. A trial is not about winning or losing. A trial is about fairness. And therefore, the other thing they're saying is that the judge gave a warning after he heard that there was an attempt to bribe the jury. And the criticism of that, it was non-specific. The judge didn't say, I've heard that this is happening, I'm warning you about so-and-so. And the last, the most important point, at that time, you had to have 11 jurors as a minimum. You could excuse one. He excused one, and the reason for excusing that one was not accepted, I think, by the court, because there was not sufficient investigation of her apprehensions as to what was happening, because she had a son at Horizon Prison, and she said she was fearful that he was there among the accused. But there ought to have been further investigation, because if you're going to lose a jury in a 12-member jury at the time, and that was the law at the time in 2015, you are now going to run a risk that you are now at your minimum 11. And because he went into a minimum 11 situation, he was cornered by the misconduct of one. He could not. One of the judges said, so this trial, the judge decided that this is going to go on with really 10 members, because the police was waiting. The judge said the police was waiting to arrest him. So this was a trial of 10, and it's not allowed for 10 persons to try a murder case in 2015.
Right.
Mouthful.
Yes. So based on what we're hearing, because it seems as if the judges, they've been peering into the jury issue. They've been hinting on that. Even when the prosecution's advocate stood up, Lord Reed said, hey, I don't mean to throw you off, but I need to hear you on the jury matter. It seems as if things might very well turn on the jury issue, especially because the court has now, since day 2, told the advocate for the prosecution that they did not need to hear him on the J2 matter. A lot of persons in the public, they're asking now, Mr. Samuels, what are the possible options that the Privy Council might have? Good question.
I just want to put on record, though, that this jury point was raised in the Jamaican Court of Appeal.
Absolutely.
And we were surprised when it didn't get traction. So, we feel vilified if this works this time. But you're asking, what are the possible outcomes? In any appeal, there are 3 outcomes possible. One, that the conviction remains in place, so that, everything stays as it is and the appeal is dismissed. The second option is that the appeal is allowed, but a retrial is ordered. And the third option is what we are looking for, is that there's an acquittal with no conditions. The men leave their prisons and come home.
Very well. And quickly, before you go, is there any course of action that they might take if they are found to be acquitted by the Privy Council? Can they do anything as it relates to suing the government? People have been asking that.
Very good question. The question is, you can sue for malicious prosecution. You can sue for, there were huge misconducts in this case. You remember that a phone was taken out and being used by a police officer. There were several breaches of their rights. They can sue that their right to privacy was invaded and did not follow the Telecommunications Act. So they can take a civil action. They've been there for 12 years. And I must add that the consideration whether they'll ask for a retrial. A lot of times the court says, where you have served a good part of your sentence, a third of your sentence, for example, and that has happened to some of them, the court is going to say, no, enough is enough. We're not going to ask for retrial. So, our fingers are crossed. We are seemingly in 80% confident that we're going to succeed, but then I'm so biased myself. So we are now looking at, we are now in the arena. Retrial or no retrial. That's what we're into in our mind.
So there's no question to your mind that the appeal is allowed. It's just a matter of retrial or not.
You can quote me.
I can quote you very well.
And the final one, Mr. Samuels, because you have some persons who they're watching the hearing and they think that today they'll hear the outcome.
Oh, no, let's tell your listeners, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It won't happen for this reason. The paperwork in this case is 9,000 pages. in the bundle, 9,000 pages. They're going to have to go and look at these. The arguments are already in written form. Although we hear the lawyers standing and talking, we have put in these submissions in writing.
Yes.
They're going to have to read virtually 9,000 pages. I'm looking from it. It's going to be a 3 months wait in my humble estimation.
A 3 months wait.
Summer verdict. It's going to be a summer verdict.
Okay.
Attorney at law.
Summer verdict.
Well,
summer verdict, he says. Bert Samuels.
Summer verdict.
Yeah. Attorney at law, thank you so much for coming on.